The morning I discovered a government warehouse sitting on my private land, with 4 police cruisers parked inside, a fuel pump running, and coffee still brewing in the break room, I realized one thing immediately. The police chief hadn't made a mistake. He had made a plan, and for 10 years nobody stopped him, because nobody knew, except me. Now, the morning I found police cruisers parked on my land, I almost laughed. Almost, because what I was staring at wasn't one car, wasn't a temporary stop. It was a full private warehouse, concrete floor, metal roof, chain link fence, sitting dead center on land my father left me. Land I hadn't visited in 3 years because I trusted this town, land that had my name on every single government record since 1987. I pulled out my phone, checked the GPS parcel overlay, checked it again. Mine, completely, undeniably mine. The warehouse had a logo painted on the side in clean, bold letters. Elk County Police Department. Equipment Storage Unit 4. There were 4 cruisers parked inside. A fuel pump. Storage racks. A break room with a coffee machine still brewing inside the open door. They hadn't even locked the gate. That's how comfortable they were. I stood there in the morning sun, boots in the mud, trying to understand the scale of what I was seeing. This wasn't a mistake. Mistakes are small. Mistakes are a fence post 2 feet over the line. This was a full government operation, built, funded, staffed, and running, one on private land. My private land. And nobody had ever called me. Not once. Not 10 years ago when they poured the foundation. Not 5 years ago when they added the fuel pump. Not last spring when they painted that logo like they owned the place. I am not an emotional man. Ask anyone who knows me. 31 years as a civil land. Surveyor teaches you that feelings don't move. Boundary lines. Evidence does. So I didn't shout. Didn't call anyone. Didn't touch a single thing inside that fence. I did what I always do. I documented everything. Timestamp. GPS coordinates. Photo of the parcel overlay next to the physical structure. Photo of the logo. Photo of the cruisers. Photo of the fuel pump serial number. Photo of the coffee machine, still brewing. Because details like that tell juries exactly how permanent something was meant to be. Then I walked the perimeter. The fence had been installed with professional concrete footings. The warehouse roof was bolted, not temporary. There were electrical lines running from a county utility pole directly into the building, meaning someone had filed permits somewhere under someone's name. And that's when the first chill ran through me. If permits existed and this structure was clearly permitted, then someone in this county had approved construction on land they did not own. That's not a clerical error. That's conspiracy. That's fraud. That's 10 years of stolen property dressed in a government uniform. I walked back to my truck, sat down, took a breath of clean morning air. Then I opened my laptop and pulled up the county assessor database. The permit was filed under a name I recognized immediately. Chief Ronald Briggs, Elk County Chief of Police, my neighbor for 11 years, the man who waved at me every Sunday at church. I stared at his name on that screen for a long time. Then I started making calls. Not to the police, not to the county office, to my attorney. By the time I reached my attorney's office, the calls had already started. My phone buzzed twice on the drive over. Unknown number. I let it ring. A third time pulling into the parking lot. Same number. On the 4th call, I answered. Mr. Hale. The voice was calm, practiced. The voice of a man, used to being listened to. This is Chief Ronald Briggs. I think we need to have a conversation. I said nothing. He continued. I understand you were out near Miller Road this morning. I just want to make sure there's no confusion about that property situation. Property situation. 10 years of illegal occupation, and he called it a property situation. Chief Briggs, I said. My attorney will be in touch. I hung up. Inside, my attorney. Sarah Voss was already pulling land records before I finished my first sentence. Sarah is the kind of lawyer who doesn't react to surprises. She catalogs them. By the time I showed her my photos, she had 3 county databases open and a yellow legal pad already half full of notes. The permit, she said, not looking up, was approved by Deputy Planning Director Alan Cole, 6 weeks after Briggs filed it. Is Cole connected to Briggs? She turned the laptop toward me. A photograph, 20 years old, faded at the edges. 2 young men grinning at the camera. Same fraternity letters on their shirts. College roommates, she said flatly. There it was. Not a mistake. Not negligence. A system built quietly over years, by men who trusted each other to look the other way. That afternoon, Sarah filed a formal land trespass claim with the county recorder. Standard procedure. What happened next was not standard. Within 3 hours, 2 sheriff's deputies showed up at my front door. Not to apologize, not to investigate. They handed me an envelope, a counterclaim filed by the Elk County Legal Department, arguing that the land had been effectively donated to municipal use through prolonged non-enforcement. In other words, because I hadn't complained for 10 years, they were claiming I had gifted them my land. I read it twice standing in my doorway in the afternoon sun. Sarah called it the boldest legal fiction she had seen in 20 years of practice. I called it a declaration of war. What they didn't know, what nobody in that county building knew, was that I had spent 31 years as a land surveyor. I had testified as an expert witness in 46 property cases. I had personally trained 3 of the county's own assessors. I knew every document they would need, every record they would hide, every gap in their paperwork that a decade of quiet fraud leaves behind. And I had already ordered certified copies of everything. Every permit, every utility filing, every equipment inventory submitted to the county budget office, each one listing vehicles stored at an address that legally belonged to me. They had 10 years of evidence sitting in their own filing cabinets. I just had to walk them to the courthouse door. The hearing was on a Tuesday morning, bright and cold, the kind of day that feels honest. Sarah and I arrived early. Briggs arrived with 4 attorneys and the county solicitor. Alan Cole sat 3 rows behind him in a gray suit, arms crossed, eyes forward. 2 local council members filled the row beside him. They brought an audience. I brought a banker's box. Sarah opened quietly, clean, no drama, just documents, laid one by one on the table like cards in a hand nobody else knew existed. Exhibit A, original 1987 date. My name, my father's signature, notarized and recorded. Exhibit B, county parcel maps. 3 versions spanning 30 years. In every single version, the land belonged to me. Exhibit C, the building permit filed by Briggs, approved by Cole, stamped with a county seal on land neither of them owned. Exhibit D, 10 years of county budget submissions, each one listing equipment stored at my address, with line items for maintenance, fuel, and utilities paid from public funds. This was the document that made Briggs's attorney pause mid-breath, because it meant the county had been billing taxpayers for a decade to maintain an illegal operation on stolen private land. That wasn't just trespass anymore. That was misappropriation of public funds. Exhibit E, utility records. Electrical service connected to my parcel. Billed to the county, approved by an office where Cole had full signature authority. Exhibit F, aerial photographs, pulled from the county's own GIS archive. The warehouse didn't exist in the morning survey image from 14 years ago. It appeared fully constructed in the image taken the following spring. Built in a single off-season, fast, deliberate, quiet. The arbitrator, a retired circuit judge named Harmon, studied the aerial images for a long time without speaking. Then he looked directly at Briggs. "Chief Briggs," he said, "were you aware this parcel was privately owned at the time of construction?" Briggs's lead attorney started to rise. Harmon raised one hand. "I am asking him." The room held its breath. Briggs straightened in his chair, looked at the table, and said nothing. That silence cost him everything. Judge Harmon ruled within the hour. Full possession of the land returned to me immediately. County ordered to remove all structures and equipment within 30 days at their own expense. Full compensation awarded for 10 years of unauthorized use, calculated from the county's own budget records. And then, the part nobody in that room had expected, Harmon referred the entire permit file to the state attorney general for criminal review, fraud, conspiracy, misuse of public funds. Cole resigned before the week ended. Briggs retired, quietly, quickly, without the ceremony a chief usually receives. 2 council members did not seek re-election. The warehouse came down on a clear Wednesday morning. I stood on my land and watched every bolt come loose. My father bought this land with 30 years of honest savings. It took me 1 morning of documentation and 1 honest judge to bring it home. The ground never forgets who it belongs to, and neither did I.